about city girls? What does the future of city girls look like?
Hopefully, the future of the city girls can be the city girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray that our egos does not like separate it, or the internet, or guys.
In the party
that's
part.
some Saucy Santana.
Nah, stop it. Stop.
Now that we got there,
no, stop.
You the one said maybe the girl Saucy and Puffy having parties. Don't act like you didn't say.
I was trying to recruit Krishan. That's what Diddy and what the girl Carisha was trying to recruit Rock. Remember that when they was heavily trying to get Rock to hang out with them? I think they was trying to recruit her. She got a lot going on. We're gonna talk about it on this podcast, and we're gonna get to the nitty gritty of all the gritty of the nitty, because it's necessary. I think them was trying to recruit her. Cause remember they just had her pulling up to everything.
Something about, do you love her?
Yeah, remember? See what I'm saying? We don't. This podcast gonna be, cause y'all know the mama know everything in everybody's business. So we gonna find out on this podcast. We ain't gonna talk no shit about nobody. We ain't gonna mock nobody, but we definitely gonna explore the possibilities that was going on. Cause they kept calling her, remember, pull up to the birthday party. Come over here and dance on Carisha. Remember that? I feel like they was trying to recruit that baby. They was trying to recruit Krishan. That's what Diddy and what the girl Carisha was trying to recruit Rock. Remember that when they was heavily trying to get Rock to hang out with them? I think they was trying to recruit her. She got a lot going on. We're gonna talk about it on this podcast, and we're gonna get to the nitty gritty of all the gritty of the nitty. Cause it's necessary. I think them was trying to recruit her. Cause remember they just had her pulling up to everything.
Something about, do you love her?
Yeah, remember? See what I'm saying? Cause y'all know the mama know everything, everybody.
JT didn't just burn a bridge. She lit up the whole damn city. In a jaw-dropping revelation that has the internet scrambling for receipts, JT is accusing her former bestie, Young Miami, of doing the unthinkable, allegedly pimping out Saucy Santana to Diddy and trying to line JT up for a threesome with both of them. Yes, you read that right. The city girls weren't just drifting apart. They were allegedly sinking in a sea of betrayal, power games, and Hollywood-style exploitation. And according to JT, this wasn't just petty girl group drama. This was grooming. This was manipulation. And worst of all, it was happening behind closed doors while fans were still dancing to act up. Now, as fans dig through old interviews, suspicious party footage, and cryptic tweets, a much darker story is emerging. One where Diddy allegedly plays puppet master, Miami plays madam, and JT, she was supposed to be next. But instead of staying silent, she let the chopper sing. Let's not sugarcoat it. JT is done playing quiet. She's not just throwing shade. She's setting fire to the whole city girl's legacy. And she started with a detonation so personal, so grotesquely calculated, that it sent shockwaves through the entire fan base. Because according to JT, this wasn't just a falling out between two women who used to be best friends. This was betrayal at the highest level, a behind-the-scenes setup that blurred the line between business and exploitation. On a live stream that's already gone viral a dozen times over, JT dropped the kind of bomb that makes you pause, rewind, and ask yourself, did she really just say that? Yes, she did. JT claimed, flat out, that Young Miami tried to pimp her out. Not figuratively, not in a clout-chasing, put her on to some business deals kind of way. No, JT says Miami deliberately tried to position her as bait, as leverage, to be handed over to none other than Sean Diddy Combs and his friend Santana. This wasn't about collaboration or cosigns. According to JT, it was about access. Bodies for favors. Pretty girls for power. Let that sink in. The very woman who stood next to her in every City Girls photo op, who screamed, period, with her in every viral interview, was allegedly offering her up like currency, like a pawn in some twisted industry barter system. And who was at the center of that circle? Diddy. The same Diddy who's currently spiraling under a storm of lawsuits, allegations, and federal investigations for trafficking, abuse, and manipulation. That Diddy. And when JT brought up Santana, it got even messy, eh? Because we're not just talking about music industry gatekeepers anymore. We're talking about people in their personal circle. People they'd party with. People they defend on social media. People who, according to JT, weren't on it. Santana, who has long been Young Miami's friend and public ally, allegedly played a role in this quiet, calculated setup. Whether as a wingman, an instigator, or a middleman, JT made it clear that this wasn't just a one-woman betrayal. It was a collective decision to treat her like a product, and that cut deeper than any diss track ever could. You could hear it in JT's voice. This wasn't about clout chasing. This wasn't about clinging to relevance. This was pain, rage, trauma. She didn't just feel betrayed. She felt used. She felt like a pawn in a game she never consented to play. And her message was clear. She's not scared anymore. Not of Miami. Not of Santana. And definitely not of Diddy. What started as rap beef has now turned into something far more disturbing. Because if JT is telling the truth, and there's a growing number of fans who believe she is, then this is no longer just a messy breakup between two friends. This is a story about power, coercion, and the ugly, predatory underbelly of fame. And it has the potential to blow the entire City Girls brand into pieces. So ask yourself, if JT was being pimped out, how many other women in the industry have been too? Because this isn't just about JT. This is about how female rappers are packaged, sold, and sometimes sacrificed for access. And the worst part? It wasn't a man who did it to her. It was her friend. For years, the City Girls were hip-hop's ride-or-die duo. The flashy outfits, the matching energy, the Instagram captions, everything about JT and Young Miami screamed unity, sisterhood, and getting the bag together. So when the group started showing cracks, awkward interviews, solo projects, missing features, fans chalked it up to ego, schedules, or industry politics. Just two boss women chasing separate bags, right? But now, after JT's bombshell claim that Miami tried to pimp her out to Diddy and Santana, fans are looking back and seeing everything in a completely different light. What if it wasn't just about music? What if the real fracture in the City Girls wasn't creative or personal, but strategic? What if JT wasn't just falling back from the group, but running for her safety, her dignity, her autonomy? Because suddenly, all those old clips look a lot more sinister. Remember that one interview where the vibe was off, where JT barely looked at Miami, kept her arms crossed, and didn't say more than 2 words. At the time, people said she was moody, uninterested, maybe tired from tour. But now fans are replaying that footage and catching the way JT's eyes darted away when Miami laughed too loud. The way she clenched her jaw when Diddy's name was mentioned. The subtle discomfort that everyone brushed off. That might have been real pain, suppressed, silenced, and waiting for the right moment to explode. And a flashback that's really haunting people right now. It's a quote from JT herself, from way before this drama came to a head. In an old interview, when asked about what could ever break up the City Girls, JT looked dead into the camera and said, "I pray it's not a guy." Just that. I pray it's not a guy. At the time, fans thought she meant jealousy over some man, or maybe a love triangle. But with what we know now, that line hits completely different. Because if what JT says is true, if Young Miami was positioning her to be passed around by Diddy and Santana, then it was a guy. Not romantically, not even personally, but systemically. A powerful man with a reputation for controlling women, using them, discarding them. And JT was being dangled like bait, groomed for something she didn't sign up for. Her body, her image, her value, tied up in favors, networking, and influence that never felt like it was meant to benefit her. So when she said, "I pray it's not a guy," maybe she already felt something brewing. Maybe she already sensed the walls closing in. Maybe she'd already seen Miami's priorities shift, not toward music, but toward power. And maybe she knew, deep down, that she was no longer a partner in a duo, but a piece on someone else's board. And now, with everything out in the open, the City Girls' legacy is being rewritten in real time. What was once a symbol of female empowerment and unity is now tangled in exploitation, silence, and betrayal. JT wasn't just another rapper trying to go solo. She was escaping. She wasn't beefing for clout. She was calling it what it was. And the worst part? It worked. For years, JT played her part. Smiled for the photos. Posted the promo. Went on stage. But behind the scenes, the friendship was already rotting. The sisterhood was already dead. And now that she's finally telling her side, we all have to look back and ask, were we cheering for a duo that never really existed? Or were we witnessing a slow, quiet breakdown, masked in designer bags and Instagram filters? Because if this is what JT was holding in all these years, the City Girls weren't just a rap group. They were a cover story. For years, people laughed off the City Girls' proximity to Diddy as harmless PR. Young Miami was calling him Poppy, toasting Ciroc, and showing up to events draped in diamonds, acting like a bad boy princess. But behind the glam, there was always something that didn't sit right. Something about how fast Miami's star rose after JT got out of prison. Something about how Diddy, the same man with decades of abuse and manipulation whispers, just happened to center himself around their circle. Then came the federal investigations, raids, lawsuits, people talking. And what did Young Miami do? She celebrated when Diddy didn't get indicted. While victims held their breath and the public braced for a reckoning, Miami popped champagne and posted hearts. It was like she had forgotten what world she was in, or maybe she was too deep to care. And for JT, that was the moment everything snapped into place. Because when someone survives exploitation, the worst betrayal isn't from the abuser. It's from the enabler, the person who knew better and stayed anyway. JT allegedly saw Miami's public support of Diddy as proof. The girl she once called her sister was gone. Not lost to fame, not caught up in a brand, but consumed by proximity to power. Diddy didn't just fund a lifestyle. He corrupted their dynamic, twisted it, made Miami believe she could climb higher by playing matchmaker with her own circle. And JT? She was just another pawn to offer up, whether she knew it or not. Because once Diddy entered the picture, everything shifted. Suddenly JT was being left out of brand deals. Santana was getting mysterious invites. Miami was making moves like a madam, not a friend. And the sisterhood? That was collateral damage. The dots don't stop at JT. According to JT, Young Miami's alleged pimping behavior started even earlier with Santana. You remember those cryptic comments? The sudden change in energy? People thought Santana and Diddy had some kind of flirtation. But JT claims it wasn't organic, it was engineered. She says Miami offered Santana to Diddy first. Yes, offered. It wasn't just about introducing friends. JT paints it like a chess move. Miami allegedly pitched Santana as the next it boy, the perfect plus one for Diddy's image reset. The flamboyant bestie to distract from the darker rumors. JT says Miami positioned him like a bargaining chip, highlighting his following, his look, his influence. And when Santana got those surprise club appearances, backstage passes, and music industry invites, that wasn't luck. That was leverage. And Santana at first resisted. JT says he wasn't comfortable. But over time, the perks started adding up. Fans remember the switch. One day Santana was calling Miami his sister. The next he was all over Diddy's circle, showing up in rooms JT didn't even know existed. There were playful comments under posts, inside jokes the public didn't understand. It looked like the three of them, Miami, Diddy, Santana, were moving in sync. And JT? She was drifting further out of frame. So when JT calls Miami a pimp, she's not just being shady. She's making a direct accusation that Miami was orchestrating relationships. Not for love, not even for clout, but for access, power, protection, and that Santana eventually played along. But what's wild is there was already a crack in that trio long before the public saw it. Remember when Santana and Young Miami suddenly stopped hanging out? One week they were inseparable, and the next they were subbing each other on Twitter, unfollowing, posting shady memes. People assumed it was petty, friend drama, ego stuff. But JT says it was deeper. According to her, Santana didn't want to get with Diddy. Plain and simple. He allegedly felt the energy shift. saw where it was going, felt uncomfortable. But Miami? She kept pushing. JT claims Miami insisted, called it a career opportunity, told Santana to just vibe and see where it leads. But Santana said no. That's when things blew up. Not over clout, not over music, but over bodily autonomy, over the line between ambition and exploitation. And when Santana refused to cross that line, he and Miami cut ties. It wasn't permanent, but it was loud. There were weeks, months, where they didn't speak. No brunches, no TikToks, no red carpets. Just silence and subs. And now, with JT finally telling her side, that silence sounds very different. It wasn't drama. It was a failed transaction. And JT? She was watching it all from the sidelines, connecting the dots in real time. First Santana, then her. Both allegedly pushed toward the same man for the same reason. So when fans wonder why the city girls fell apart, or why JT suddenly went cold on her old crew, this is what she wants you to know. It wasn't over music. It was over morals. And now that she's speaking out, the whole empire they built together is crumbling under the weight of what they really were behind closed doors. After all the tension, all the silence, and all the whispers, fans were shocked when Santana and Young Miami started popping out together again. It was sudden, no explanation, no apology, just business as usual. They were back to clubbing, laughing, and hitting red carpets like nothing ever happened. But JT says there was a price. In her words, Santana didn't just return, he folded. She hints that somewhere along the line, he gave in. The resistance he once showed allegedly melted under the weight of money, exposure, and power. And the way JT frames it, it wasn't just a reunion, it was a transaction. Santana, she says, started playing along, posing for the cameras, smiling next to Diddy, letting the narrative shift. And that's when the fan theories exploded. People had already speculated that Young Miami was never really Diddy's type, that their romance felt too polished, too performative. Now, in light of JT's claims, those theories are back with a vengeance. What if Miami was the beard, the public-facing, paparazzi-ready decoy, while the real object of interest was Santana? What if Diddy's proximity to queer culture wasn't about allyship, but access? And what if Miami knew and played her role anyway? Fans point to the body language in photos, the weirdly intimate energy between Diddy and Santana, the sudden brand deals, the parties they all attended together, and the ones JT wasn't invited to. JT doesn't spell it out, but she doesn't have to. The implication is clear. Some of them chose to survive by participating, and that survival came with perks, deals, clout, silence. For months, JT kept it classy, subtle, passive-aggressive, a side eye in an interview here, a vague tweet there. But when she finally snapped, she burned it all down. It started with a Twitter thread, cryptic but cutting, mentions of betrayal, of people selling you out with a smile. Then came the shade, the bars, the barely disguised digs in her lyrics and live streams. But the moment that turned heads, the Instagram story where she broke. I would have taken a bullet for you, and you let me drown. That wasn't about a business partner. That was about sisterhood, and the kind of betrayal that only comes from someone who knew your whole soul and still chose status over truth. JT accuses Miami of not just abandoning her, but using her, letting her take the hits, letting her be dragged by blogs, mocked in interviews, even threatened, and never once stepping in to defend her. She paints a picture of a woman who knew the power Diddy held and decided to ride that wave, even if it meant pushing everyone else underwater. JT's rage wasn't just at Miami. It was at the entire system, the fake friendships, the silence, the complicity. She survived prison, the industry, and betrayal. But what cut deepest was seeing someone she loved act like she was disposable. But as the dust settles, JT is making it clear this isn't just about her. In one of her most sobering interviews, she says it flat out. This ain't just city girls' business. This is how this whole game works. And with that, the floodgates opened. JT hints that she wasn't the only one caught in this alleged grooming ecosystem. That other women, other queer artists were promised the world and slowly backed into corners. Offered up, silenced. Sometimes by men. Sometimes by the very women who claim to protect them. She never names names. But she doesn't have to. Because when Young Miami posted that cryptic 111 caption, the so-called angel number of alignment, loyalty, and protection, right after Diddy's legal team started spinning again, fans didn't see spirituality. They saw a coded message. A quiet declaration. I'm still with him. And when she flexed her Chanel bag in the middle of the storm, people noticed the symbolism. Because Chanel was the same brand Cassie wore in her last public appearance before vanishing for years. The same aesthetic Diddy plastered all over his parties. The same currency women in that world used to show they're still in. To some, it looked like fashion. To others, it looked like compliance. Social media detectives have gone wild. Twitter threads, TikToks, old care shop please episodes being dissected frame by frame. Club footage slowdown. Instagram comments analyzed like FBI files. Fans are pulling out screenshots from years ago. Moments that once seemed harmless, now tinged with darkness. That one awkward joke. That uncomfortable pause. That flash of sadness behind JT's eyes. And the timeline is starting to make sense. The late-night studio sessions that never produced songs. The sudden shift in who got invited to what. The deals that didn't go to the more talented person, but the more willing one. Now people are wondering, was JT the only one who got used? Or just the only one who finally said it out loud? Because when one woman speaks up, it's easy to label her bitter. But when the receipts start matching, when the energy shifts, when people stop laughing and start remembering, that's when the Real story begins. And this one isn't just about rap beef or friendship fallouts. This is about power. This is about survival. And this might just be the beginning of the biggest unraveling the industry has seen yet.